Hello and welcome to Insights in Caribbean Intellectual Property, the official podcast of the Caribbean and America's Intellectual Property Organization, CAAIPO. I'm your host, Chris Benjamin, along with Alice Richards. Today's topic is the intellectual property dilemma, the case of Guyana. What happens when a government openly announces plans to break international copyright law? That's exactly what unfolded in Guyana in 2012, leading to a fascinating clash between education access and intellectual property rights that rippled across the Caribbean.
You know what's really striking about this case? The Guyana government didn't try to hide what they were doing. They publicly declared they would spend millions on bootlegged British textbooks, claiming it was for the greater good of their citizens.
And here's where it gets really interesting. They made this announcement while still operating under a Copyright Act from 1956. That's right, a law created before the country even gained independence in 1966. It's like trying to regulate smartphones with rules written for rotary phones.
Hmm. But even that outdated law explicitly prohibited what they were planning to do, right? The copying of materials for commercial distribution?
Exactly. And that's what makes this so fascinating. The government essentially announced they were going to violate their own laws. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. The international response was swift and decisive, showing how intellectual property rights have become this powerful new currency in global relations.
Well, that brings up an interesting question. How did the international community, especially the British publishers, respond to such a bold move?
The reaction was fascinating. They immediately engaged in formal diplomacy, secured court orders, and essentially forced the Guyana government to backtrack. But what's really interesting is how this exposed the limitations of international agreements, like the Berne Convention.
You know, I've heard about the Berne Convention, but I'm not sure many people understand why it wasn't enough to prevent this situation.
So here's the thing. The Berne Convention is like having a gym membership, but never actually going to the gym. Just being a signatory doesn't automatically protect copyright. Countries need to actively update their domestic laws to make it work. And Guyana, well, they hadn't done that homework.
That's such a clear way to explain it. And I understand other Caribbean nations have actually managed to modernize their approach to intellectual property rights.
Yes, Jamaica, Trinidad, and St. Lucia have created comprehensive frameworks that balance protection with access. They've shown it's possible to have strong intellectual property rights while still ensuring educational materials are accessible. They've implemented everything from fair use provisions to special educational licenses.
So, in a way, this incident really highlighted the growing importance of intellectual property in international relations.
Exactly. And here's what makes this so relevant today. In our modern knowledge based economy, companies are often more concerned about protecting their intellectual property than their physical assets. When a country shows it won't respect these rights, it's essentially putting up a keep out sign to international investment and partnership opportunities.
That makes me wonder about the impact on Guyana's own creative sector and innovators.
Well, that's where this gets really concerning. Think about it. If you're a Guyanese inventor, artist, or entrepreneur, what incentive do you have to innovate if your own government won't protect your intellectual property? It affects everything from software development to traditional cultural expressions.
And this all started with what seemed like a simple decision about textbooks.
Right. And that's what makes this story so compelling. It shows how, in today's interconnected world, even local decisions can have global implications. The government thought they were just solving an educational access problem, but they ended up sparking an international incident that exposed much deeper issues about development, innovation, and global cooperation.
Looking ahead, what lessons should other developing nations take from this situation?
The key takeaway is that you can't ignore intellectual property rights in today's world. But it's not just about compliance. It's about creating an environment where innovation can flourish while ensuring fair access to knowledge. Countries need to think of intellectual property protection as part of their development strategy, not an obstacle to it.
That really puts this whole situation in perspective. It's not just about following rules, it's about creating conditions for growth and innovation.
And that's exactly why this story matters so much. In today's global economy, intellectual property rights aren't just legal obligations. They're tools for development, innovation, and participation in the international community. The challenge is finding that balance between protection and access. And that's something every nation needs to figure out if they want to thrive in the modern world. Thanks for joining us. Please follow us wherever you listen to this podcast so that we can let you know about new episodes. If you're listening on YouTube, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.